Welcome to another edition of We Need to Talk About Movies. Brought to you by BanterFlix.com. And now, here's your host, Jim McLean.
Hello, I'm your host, Jim McLean. Welcome to the latest edition of the BanterFlix Cinecast, coming to you as always from the Strand Arts Centre here in East Belfast. Tonight we're going to be going back to the 90s in honour of our recent screening of The Faculty. And joining me this evening on this podcast is Neil Sedgewick from Films and Faith.
Hello.
Local blogger, Therese Rea.
Hi.
And from Belfast Time, Jonathan Cardwell.
Hey, Jim.
We're going to go back to the 90s. We're going to talk about The Faculty. I'm sure we'll throw a bit of Scream in there. I'm sure, generally 90s, we were all better people in the 90s. But, let's get on with the show. So, we're back in the 90s, guys. I was in my early 20s. Would I have been? No, I've been my late teens, early 20s. Neil?
Yeah, I would have done the teenage years during the 90s. I'd have been all Oasis up and parkas and stuff.
Oh, I wouldn't have liked you in the 90s. Therese?
Probably just born.
Oh, that makes
1992.
That makes us feel
Wow.
old.
That really
does. That bombshell is enough to finish this podcast.
Yeah,
What about you, Jonathan?
I was 5 in 1990, so I don't know.
Oh, I still.
I had
Would have been like on stickle bricks and all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or what do you call
The big stuff.
what do you call the
Lego.
rip-off of Lego? Duplo?
Duplo.
Whenever your parents couldn't afford Lego, they just got you Duplo. But
But
anyway,
that's so you don't swallow the Lego.
well,
You can't swallow Duplo.
Yeah.
Unless
Duplo-
you're really
you
trying.
you can, trust me, been there, done that, worn the t-shirt. But Duplo is on another thing. Of course, we recently screened The Faculty, which I couldn't believe actually was a sold out screening at the Beanbag Cinema. Thank you very much for everyone who came down. We normally have little sheets because we all give you homework to do on the screening. Unfortunately, as a typical really bad teacher like Andrew Lincoln from Teachers, I've unfortunately left all the details at home. So I've got, we will do another podcast where we will talk about all you've written. Because there was some lovely things that people wrote, I have to say. And it was great that you all kind of stayed afterwards and kind of filled them in so fantastically. Well, we're on the topic. We've got another screening on the 26th of August, which is Assault on Precinct 13. But The Faculty. Jonathan, you've seen it. Therese and Neil, you've seen...
I've seen most of it.
You've seen most of it?
I was just to lay this out. I was watching it today while
Okay.
looking after my children, so I was sneakily watching it.
So this is the highbrow nature of our film review show. We've got someone who's seen up to the last 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And we've got someone who's read the synopsis. We'll not say who. And there's two
I
of
haven't
us.
seen it in about 10 years, by the way.
Okay, well, we're all good. But I generally, right, when we put it up, we've screened Hudsucker, Drunken Master, The Faculty, and Assault on Precinct 13. And I couldn't believe the kind of madness that The Faculty went on Facebook. It went loop-de-loop.
Everybody loves the 90s.
Everybody loves the 90s. And I genuinely was surprised because I hadn't... It's not that I didn't love it. I always had a soft spot for it, probably because it was the film that introduced me to Frame Jansen.
Famke Janssen. Yeah.
Yes, I kind of fell in love with that woman during that film. I was the perfect age at that kind of, just to kind of fall in love with that woman there and then. But I never had that massive love for it. But it was amazing to sit and watch a film, as we've always kind of aimed for the nights we do, watching films with friends and watching people laugh and watching people get scared. Well, not me. I wouldn't say The Faculties. I know you've watched up the last 20 minutes.
Oh no, it's not massively scary. Like,
no.
But there is a little bit of shock
It's
horror
a nice,
there when the wee gribblies appear.
Yeah, it's a nice wee, like, paranoid sort of thriller.
Key thing, Trez, from reading the synopsis, how scary was the synopsis?
On a scale of 1 to scary, probably about a 4.
Okay, that's...
I'm not a fan of aliens as such without giving too much away. But
what could you give away? As in implying that you're possibly an alien?
the thing that probably drew me most was maybe the cast, because reading through, it's a really big 90s cast. People that you've seen in other films that we'll probably talk about as well.
Yeah.
So it was something that you could associate directly with the 90s.
Yeah, it is when you watch it. It's one of those 90s films. It's got such a 90s soundtrack.
Yeah.
When you watch it,
Really
it's
does.
got a 90s soundtrack. I think it's got a great sound. Because actually, you talk about Oasis. I know you haven't seen the closing credits. There's that Oasis track. I forget the song.
It's Stay Young, isn't
Stay
it?
Young.
Yeah.
And I kind of was
Oh,
listening
love
to...
that.
Well, because when we were at the screen, the beanbag, I was opening the door. And as you do, you're kind of like giving out leaflets for people. Come again, please, thank you, come again. And you're just kind of listening to that tune. And you're going, I haven't listened to that song in so long. I think that was even a B-side for Oasis. It wasn't even a proper kind of A-list, from any of the albums. As I said, I'd forgotten how much I love it. I will say that some of the special effects are terribly... some of them are pretty terrible. Although the actual scenes, like, it's in the trailers, everything. Like, the kind of wee gribbly alien before it kind of gets in, it is, because it is Invasion of the Body Snatchers. We're in spoiler territory here. We're in a film from the 90s. If you haven't watched it, read the synopsis. We're not going to spoil anything. But
it's just as good.
it is. We're not, but it hasn't really dated there's some stuff that has dated terribly when you kind of go look at something like The Thing, and you go, The Thing holds up no matter how many times I watch it. I still get scared by it, and I always come back to, I always steal other people's facts or other people's quotes. It's a CGI Gribbly. Your comment, Jonathan, about CGI Gribblies never really properly scared you.
Yeah.
There's a creep factor to it, but you don't actually find yourself kind of going repulsed in the way like The Thing, where no matter how many times I watch that film, that sequence where the head comes off the body just makes me shudder.
It's funny you mentioned The Thing, actually. The scene that this movie pretty much rips off.
Yeah.
Where they're snorting whatever the drug is, and to weed out whoever the alien is. Just a complete rip off of the same scene from The Thing.
Yeah.
But it works really well. Like, this movie is a whole load of different... I don't want to say it's completely stolen from other sorts of films, but there's a whole lot of, let's say,
nods,
homages to other films.
There's a lot of
nice way to put it.
There's a lot of Invasion of the Body Snatchers, The Breakfast Club, and The Thing. When you kind of, because what I loved about it, the way we've done these nights is everybody gets to introduce a film they've picked, and it was Bill Taylor's pick for the film, and it was lovely kind of listening to someone kind of talking about, as we kind of say, going back to 90s and kind of saying this is a film I remember seeing in this cinema. And it's that, as I always talk about, cinema is it's instant feedback to nostalgia. And you think back to where you watched that film for the first time, who you watched it with, and maybe what you did afterwards. And just kind of, as Bill kind of said on the night, it was like one of those films that really got him into Robert Rodriguez. Mm-hmm. He watched The Faculty, and then he went and watched From Dusk Till Dawn. And that From Dusk Till Dawn was like, that, his exact words were on the night where, that is the filmmaker I want to be. Yeah. So, I mean, I love that. And I mean, that's what I loved about the night. As I say, but coming back to the film, like I know you've seen a bit. You must have seen trailers, Therese.
No.
You cannot tell me that the
not even on the IMDb page. No,
no. I just kind of briefly went through the synopsis.
Okay, but have you spoiled it for yourself? Do you know the full synopsis? Did you go to extent?
I didn't. It was just the kind of top bit. Whenever you see the rating and stuff like that, I will probably go back and watch it, definitely.
Yeah.
Because I do love horror thrillers from the 90s. Like obviously Scream's big one.
Because the key thing I will sell this to you with, it's written by the same guy who wrote Scream. It's written by the same gentleman who wrote Scream, Kevin Williamson. And when you watch it, it's kind of the way like Scream looks at all the kind of tropes and all the conventions of the horror movie. You've got all this going on here again with The Faculty as well.
Opposite as well. I mean, I'm going off on tangent. I really love The Craft as well.
Yeah.
Which I think is really underrated. I know a lot of people around my age, obviously I was born in the 90s and I seen it a couple of years later, and I remember, I think it was on like Channel 5, and it was one of those movies where you're sitting up and you're not really supposed to be watching it.
Yeah. But as I always say, it's my kind of quote, I like stealing other people's, but this is my one. You were old enough to know you shouldn't have been watching it, but you were old enough to know you wanted to watch it.
Exactly. Yeah. And the scene that is forever etched in my mind is whenever Sarah goes into her bathroom, whenever all the witchcraft's going on, and all of the maggots and worms start coming out of the toilet, and you see the rats running through the house and stuff like that.
Because I have to say, like, we opened this as an open kind of 90s, kind of a 90s fest, you're going full Noel Gallagher. I'm maybe going to go a bit Blur, we'll start the rivalry going up.
I don't mind Blur either.
That's crossing the divide.
That's like saying on a tangent now, but there's no indie band in the 90s. I will claim Britpop as
that is like saying I like drinking Coke and Pepsi. That's kind of the sacrilege you're going for.
Kind of.
I hadn't... The Craft didn't pass me by. I always wanted to watch The Craft, but never did. And then it was on Netflix, and I watched it, and I kind of went, I really like this film. It's kind of very, in a way, if I can say that, if it was released now, the Twiglet generation, I think, would be going absolutely loop-de-loop over The Craft. And so I think there's talk of either a sequel or as everything that they're possibly a reboot or a TV show spin-off. And I actually would love to see that. Because, I mean, we were talking there before the recording. Like, there's Cruel Intentions TV series, which is actually acting as a sequel to the original film, not like the 15 other Cruel Intentions that no one ever talks about. But have any of you two gents, have any of you seen The Craft?
I haven't seen The Craft, but all I do remember the poster.
Yeah.
Because I remember the 4 girls, and they're kind of like in
like
school uniform. Kind of like, you know, when you go to one of them club nights, and it's a school uniform night?
Yeah.
And they're kind of walking towards her like that. I can see the poster in my head, like, vividly.
It's like the Evil Bewitched.
Teenage years,
Evil Bewitched, that's what they look like.
Evil Bewitched.
Yeah, that's what they look like. They look like
I never saw it.
They look like a 90s girl band.
Yeah.
Yeah. But in a good way.
With psychotic tendencies.
All saints with psychotic tendencies.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah.
That's a nice way of putting it. That's fine. That's a nice way of putting it. What about you, Jonathan? You seen?
I've never actually seen it. Well, if I have, again,
have you read the synopsis?
No, I haven't read the synopsis. And Evil Bewitched. That's sold it to me.
That's sold it. I think it's still on Netflix. I know
I
other
think it is,
other video on demand services are of course available, but that's where I watch it again. I mean, that's why I love Netflix. You kind of go back now, and there's a heap of John Hughes from. I know we're going back to the 80s. There's a heap of John Hughes films there, and there's loads of films popping up now from the 90s. You kind of go, yeah, I'm going to watch that. That's worth my $7.50 a month. Before we move away to other 90s films, other than like The Craft that we've mentioned, the one thing I will say is I love Robert Patrick in this film. And there's one scene, and I sat and watched that on the beanbag on Friday with just a big, stupid, big grin. It's the bit where the football match is going on. And everybody's, the opposing team's being turned, and they're all tackling and like pretty much breaking these guys apart. And it's just his reaction.
Usher is going mental.
Yeah,
at that point.
Usher. How 90s can you get? Usher's not singing; he's acting.
He's clotheslining people,
and I don't even think he's.
I don't
even think he's called Usher. I think he's actually. I don't even think it's like Usher starring Usher.
No,
I think it might have been Usher's real name.
Usher Raymond.
Yeah,
I think it says on.
It's like when films kind of say now Dwayne the Rock. They don't even say Dwayne the Rock Johnson. They just go Dwayne Johnson. And you're like, excuse me, you'll find that's the Rock.
Always be the Rock.
That's the Rock. If you smell what the Rock is cooking, I'm not a big Usher fan, but it's just that scene. Anytime I think of The Faculty, because I think is it a Marilyn Manson tunes going on in the background?
Probably it was the 90s.
While they're kind of going off, and you're like, yes. And every time I watched that, and I was just kind of. Because I was waiting for Bill, but Bill had to nip to the toilet. I'm telling too much information. And Bill nipped to the loo, and you're like, you're going at the worst possible bit. And then he come back, and he's like, Bill's exact words to me, have I missed the football bit? You're like, yeah, of course you have. And it's just his face. And we kind of think he's just perfect in that role because he's... We don't want to outright spoil it because Therese hasn't seen it, and you've missed the last 20 minutes, so...
No, I haven't missed them. I haven't got there yet.
Yes, he hasn't. You know, he may or may not be the alien queen, but it's just that sequence. Anytime I think about it, I could watch that scene on YouTube on its own and just quite happily put a smile on my face. And then you've got, as you said, Elijah Wood in it as well. Elijah Wood, he just never ages.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. The effects haven't aged incredibly well, but Elijah Wood really has. Him and Paul Rudd, do they cryogenically freeze?
I think they just have a photo of Dorian Gray up somewhere.
Like it's unreal.
Yeah.
Just on the favorite scenes from The Faculty, I really love how it opens. I think it's how it opens anyway, where the principal's running through the school.
Yes,
that's probably the scariest part of that film.
And it's Fraser's wife.
And it's Fraser's wife.
And can I make a confession here in this podcast? I had such a crush on her. It's not her character, although she's really hot in this. She's kind of 90s hot. I think I had a real crush. I know exactly what you mean by that. I think I had a real crush on her as, isn't it Lilith in Frasier?
Yeah.
Oh, I swear there was something that stone cold icy queen kind of, could she be a dead zombie? I don't know, that sexy look. There was something about it, and you know, there's something in this film where you kind of go, even if you were an alien, love, you know. If I'm gonna get, you know, turned into like a brainless alien by anybody, it would be Lilith from Frasier.
Fair enough.
and Salma Hayek,
I
maybe.
was just going to say.
I'd actually rather Jon Stewart did it to me.
True.
That's right, he's the teacher.
Jon Stewart's the
Yeah.
biology or chemistry teacher.
I did not recognise that man at all. Now, didn't you actually
He
think
looks
about-
really different,
Of course,
actually.
yes. When you think about it now, of course he is. Yeah. So, anything else before we move on, Jonathan? Neil, anything you want to talk about the faculty?
No, I'm
No.
good.
I'm trying to think of other like standout scenes that I can't really remember any. I think the end is really good.
There is
But
the
I
bit
don't
where
wanna spoil
Jon
it for you.
Stewart gets, and talking about the bad CGI in it, there is the bit
The
where
eye?
they cut Jon Stewart's fingers off.
Yeah.
He gets a big blade, he goes right across the fingers, and then the fingers kind of turn into gribblies and run across the floor. And honestly, it looks like flipping something you do on Microsoft Paint.
There is the
When
bit.
you're drunk.
Have you got as far as the bit where?
Oh, I'm right up. I am at the final
Okay.
kind of chase.
So
bit.
the kind of you've seen the bit with the school teacher, the sexy school teacher from X-Men,
Yeah.
where she gets her head taken off.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's really bad CGI.
Done that, yeah.
It's
yeah.
kind of the head
That's
just
really
kind of
bad.
slithers across,
Oh, yeah.
and you're like,
I don't know.
nah.
I think there's I really think there's some sort of charm to bad sort of effects. Like I really quite like it.
You know
Like,
what?
Talk about the thing.
You know what?
right?
I'll forgive it now. I'll forgive a film in the 90s for bad CGI. I'll not forgive a film now with bad CGI.
No,
If that makes sense.
No, I know what you mean. But like looking back on it, like I sort of forgive it. I was like, oh, you were trying.
You
but
were
there's
trying.
still like
You
a
were
charm
young.
to it. Yeah.
As they said,
I still think
as
it
they said in The
looks- it looks
Simpsons,
quite
you
cute.
tried your best. Wasn't it? Never try.
Dear Lovey, you just hadn't
Yeah.
updated your software, and that's what you gave us, and that's what we'll have to go with.
Yeah.
No, I like it. I think it's good fun. I'm trying to remember like other standout scenes, and it sounds really bad that I can't remember any of them now. What was it? I've talked about the bit where they all test out the drugs.
Yeah. When it's caffeine.
It's just really creepy. Isn't this the one where Elijah Wood is in his bedroom and there's just the people standing outside?
Yeah.
Doesn't that happen?
Yeah,
That's really creepy.
Your
That always
teachers
creeps me
too?
out. Yeah, that
his
always
teacher
creeps me
standing
out.
outside, and then his dad comes out still holding the porno mag. He found it. Yes, it's hilarious.
His dad's
I'm
that
keeping
guy.
this, son.
He's that guy. He's always in comedy films, and he's
Yes.
just. And you kind of go when you look at him. I can't remember the actor's name. You kind of go, "I've seen you in loads." You're always kind of like the kind of stereotypical grumpy guy in pretty much 90s comedy. I'm pretty certain he's in every single National Lampoon film I can possibly
Yeah.
think of.
Oh, yeah.
Like Men at Work. No, that's not National Lampoon. That's Men in White is National Lampoon. It's a terrible film. It's pretty much a spin-off of Men in Black. Don't watch it.
Oh, dear.
It is. I would say if you've never seen it, like hopefully we're selling it for you, Therese.
Definitely are.
Hopefully we are, and when you watch it, you'll tell us, you'll tweet us and go, "I loved it," or possibly you hated it. I don't know because we spoiled every bit for it.
Well, yeah.
But 90s, we've already got the craft thrown in. We don't have to stay with horror. We're going back on a nostalgia fest for the 90s. I'm assuming, you and I are probably the prime suspects for this.
Yeah.
Not to say that you two aren't, but you were 5. And
Well, I was
you were,
5 in 1990.
Yeah. Okay, and you were just
I
born.
aged 10 years.
Yes, that's okay. That's okay. So what about you? When I say the 90s, what kind of films do you think of?
I go straight into Independence Day, Con Air, what do you call it? Oh no, it was in my head and that's gone. Independence Day, Con Air,
Godzilla?
The Rock, Godzilla, like just kind of big, stupid,
Jurassic Park?
dumb action films. Jurassic Park, of
Yeah.
course, and even not an action film at all, but kind of the first serious film I ever watched. Well, I say serious, but Forrest Gump.
That's not a bad one. That is, you don't get much more 90s than that. Like one I'll throw out to you as well. Have any of you ever seen it? It's again a really bad, terrible film. And I know on a podcast that hasn't been released yet, we may have talked about this on our video store memories. It's going to be out later this month. I remember specifically renting over and over again in the 90s a film. I think it's called it's The Heart of Darkness or the name's not in my head. All I know, it's got Michael Douglas and Val Kilmer, and there's blood. There's man-eating lions, and it's in Africa. Watch it; it's terrible. The very final sequence, Val Kilmer somehow is able to outrun a tiger. He's somehow able to outrun a tiger. But I was obsessed about this film when I was slightly younger. I remember specifically renting it over and over again, because the way sometimes Extravision, which is now gone anyway, but you could get like the 2 or 3 films for like £6 or something.
Yeah.
You got a new film and you went, right, we'll get this. I think it's Heart of Darkness or something like that.
Yeah.
But you've got Michael Douglas, who basically plays the greatest bounty hunter of all time, and he just can go out and kill lions, and that's it. But you've got Val Kilmer, and it's somehow that these lions are the possessed spirits of kind of the local land. It's a wonderfully weird film. The Craft, I as I said, I didn't see it at the time, but I remember specifically the trailer. I remember the trailer, and there's that scene where they're kind of, one of them comes through the window or something. I always remember that sequence, but I have to go full 90s, and we are showing it. Well, one of the films anyway is Captain Smith. I have to go Clerks. I remember someone slightly older than me given me a copy. I don't think it was Clerks. It might have been Mallrats. I watched first, and I remember kind of going, who is this guy? This guy gets my sense of humor. It's that kind of dreaded thing. It's like when you watch like an Edgar Wright film and you go, if I was a director, that's the film I would be making when I watch Mallrats. You just go, Ben Affleck, everything. And there's just lines you can kind of quote. I'm not going to go here. There's ladies present. But you kind of got like the whole kind of chocolate flavored pretzel, stuff like that. And when he did her in an uncomfortable place, the back of a Volkswagen, things like that. Things like that when I think of. And then Clerks. And Clerks is just a stupendous film.
I would be the same. Like, I discovered that. I discovered Mallrats on a VHS, but it was on after the movie that I had taped. And I just kept watching it, and that's how I discovered it. Yeah, that is actually, now that you mention it, that is one of the ones in the 90s that I was like, yeah, I really love this. But see, watching it now, I don't think it's very good when I watch it back.
Mallrats.
Yeah, it's not great.
Get out.
I like Clerks, but again, I don't think it's very good when I watch it back. But it was one of those sort of, like at the time when I saw it first, I was working in the shop still. Yeah. So it really, like, it strikes a chord with you. Yeah. But no, yeah, I sort of got a bit obsessed. But now that I think about it, it wasn't in the 90s. It was when I was at university, but it's obviously a 90s film.
There's other films. I'm going to change it, right? And I know, again, I'm maybe slightly excluding you guys, but films in the 90s that might not necessarily be from the 90s, but I remember the 90s being obsessed about, if that makes sense. I remember we had a caravan in County Down, and I remember repeatedly watching Goodfellas. Yeah. Over and over. Sorry, there was Goodfellas. We had like 4 or 5 VHS. There was Goodfellas. Top Gun, possibly, and I'll have to come back to in the last one. But I remember watching Goodfellas over because I think Goodfellas was 80s, early 90s.
Goodfellas was right bang on 1990. I think.
Yeah. So no, there's no way I watched it. Well, I would say it would have been my late teens. So I remember just watching it, kind of going, wow. Just the cursing. And as I kind of say, you kind of watch it, and when you're younger, you kind of go, Joe Pesci's just hilarious. He's the funniest guy ever. But now, pardon me, when you watch it now when you're older, you kind of go, no, he's actually the most terrifying person. Yeah.
There are no Goodfellas in that film.
No. We've talked that in our Scorsese podcast. But what other 90s, come on, peeps, what other 90s films? When I say to you, we're going back to the 90s, what are the films? People who maybe want to sample the 90s, listen to this podcast. What are the films? What are the top 5 90s films you say, right, here is a decade summed up?
Okay. Well, because we were talking about The Faculty, I went to horror films, and I immediately went to Scream. Yeah. But I don't think there's anybody in the world that hasn't seen Scream. Is that right?
Doesn't love Scream.
Looking around suspiciously.
I know, I was just
just checking.
But I think Scream just sort of typifies the 90s in a way that a lot of other films don't. It just completely rewrote everything in regards to horror, which was sort of fallen out of again, and it's now just the same thing over and over again.
It took a genre to become really stale and said, right, let's shine a light on all the conventions, all the tropes and everything, all the so-called rules for the horror movie, and said, right, let's shine a light. And what happens if we give an audience that's now aware of all these tropes, and what do? They do exactly the same thing as they do in the movies. Yeah. And that's why I absolutely love it.
No, I think Scream is pretty perfect, to be honest. And it's another one because I'm pretty sure I saw that when it came out, not in the cinema, but somebody I knew had bought it. Yeah. And it was 96?
I think 96,
so it was
97.
11 that came out in video. I must have been 12. Yeah. See, wasn't it when you're 12? Oh my goodness. It was brilliant. It was the best thing I'd ever seen.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think I snuck into the cinema to see Scream 2.
Wearing a Scream costume?
No, not quite.
Standing in
mask
the
and
corner, just waiting for anybody to go to the door.
Yeah, it's just kind of like,
Rocking
and how old are you? Or no, I can I actually say, just on a complete tangent, can I say one of the most terrifying things, just because we're in the Strand, one of the most terrifying things or incidents in my life ever was last Halloween at the Strand, being asked by them to introduce one of the films, and it was just in front of a really largely teenage audience to kind of explain to them why this film is important, and I've never been as terrified in my life ever. I've sat in front of people giving lectures and this, that, and other, and talking to people about X, Y, Z, but to sit to a group of teenagers who, you know, you're just holding up the film. You know, while you're talking, we could be seeing Drew Barrymore getting minced here, and you're kind of going,
get off the stage.
I'm kind of actually was waiting, like in Scream 2, the very start of it. It's like kind of just waiting for like a group, or I think it's Scary Movie, where just everybody kind of comes up and just stabs that person. Just on a complete tangent, that was the most terrifying ever doing anything kind of cine related. I don't mind talking to old people. I've done a couple of Q&As where I've interviewed people. That's fine. But see, to tell a group of really grumpy East Belfast teenagers why this film is really important, and you were like at the very end, like you get like one person just kind of giving you that. It's like, thanks mum. But on that, but Scream, kind of going on a tangent back from like to the current. Anybody been watching the TV series?
Yes, 100% love it.
The second series I haven't loved as much, right? It took a wee while to get going, but the first series, I thought, to take that kind of idea and put it into kind of a TV series rather than a film, I didn't think it would work. It works stupendously. Yeah. And it's kind of, you watch it now and like, okay, granted, everybody seems to have GoPros and seems to be the most tech savvy people in the entire world. Like I struggle with this. We have like a phone up there set up for later for Facebook Live. That's the most confuddling thing I've done. But there's killers in Scream TV series who like, they're just geniuses. But I have to say, you've been watching it. I love it. So
I know what you mean by season 2. At the minute, it's toward the end for anybody who is currently watching it. So in season 1, I found that you were kind of giving away the killer slightly too early on.
Yeah, I don't have a clue.
Whereas me and my friend
well, we had a theory, but that because the last episode has now been completely out the window,
demolished.
Yeah.
But at this minute, I think there's like 2 episodes. You should definitely watch it.
You should watch it.
It's really,
do you know what? Actually, I'll say the only thing that's frustrated me, it's kind of that thing with Netflix at the minute, is it's doing that Wednesday release. I want to binge and stuff. So, but
so it's only like one a week.
In a good way, right? I'll say this, because of the fact it's only released once a week, I've then got into Stranger Things. But the downside of that is I binged on Stranger Things and now instantly have binger's remorse because I've watched it and now Stranger Things is, for me, is over. I kind of can go back and rewatch it, but like I suppose it's technically 80s, 90s. Anybody else here been watching Stranger Things?
No, not yet.
I've seen the first episode.
Oh, have you finished?
I'm on the 3rd episode. I just finished it.
I'll not spoil it. It is just the best thing. It reminds me, going back to the 90s, it reminds me of watching kind of the old classic Stephen King things like It. Which gave me nightmares.
Yeah.
But more importantly, does anyone ever remember like the Tommy Knockers being out in the 90s? It was another Stephen.
Yeah.
It was one of those kind of. It was like the Channel 4 TV movie.
Yeah.
Kind of. It wasn't a proper film. And I know people will go, of course it was a proper, I think it was made for TV. Same as It. It was made for TV. It wasn't made for a theatrical release. Because it's like, 3 hours long? It's really, really long.
Yeah.
I've never seen it.
It?
No.
No. Do you like clowns?
I'm not scared.
Yeah,
you will be.
After this.
You will be. Have you seen it?
I've seen bits of it, but I'm just still fascinated that it's Tim Curry that plays.
And Tim Curry
because I just think of Tim Curry as Rocky Horror Picture Show, and I'll never get it in my mind.
Oh, you'll never get him out as Pennywise.
No,
still we all float down.
No,
here.
shush, I can't.
It's even the promo, like pictures of like the face and the grating, and I just picture that. No,
See, on the
I'd love to
Tommyknockers,
watch it.
I couldn't watch the Tommyknockers because of it. Because once I got done with it, I was like,
You know
I'm
what,
not going
though?
anywhere freaking near that.
I'm going to spoil you.
No
I'm going
way.
to spoil it for you. We'll have an expletive rating. The Tommyknockers is cake. The Tommyknockers is cake. But I will say to this, we're actually thinking of screening it. Spoiler, possible spoiler. We might haven't announced it yet. Because watching Stranger Things reminds me so much of another 90s. Because Stephen King was kind of the 90s. It was kind of the go-to. Is it The Firestarter? Not the Twisted Firestarter. Twisted Fire. But it's a Stephen King film called Firestarter. Which if you watch it, it's kind of pretty much kind of a lot of Stranger Things. Government chasing a young girl with telekinetic powers. It's not a great film. It's Drew Barrymore's in it. It's not fantastic. But if anybody's been binging on Stranger Things, I think that is a kind of perfect film to kind of go to and watch.
Cool.
And we actually, myself and Bill have talked about doing a kind of Stranger Things spoiler cast when it's done dusted. But what I love about it so much is there's so many nods to those films from the 80s and 90s.
Yeah.
There's later on as the series kind of goes on, I'm not going to spoil it. I will say this is a big nod to Aliens. And you're like,
oh wow, okay.
I'm on there. I mean, it's weird when you think about it now that I know we're kind of going off on a rambly tangent, but my enjoyment, because we talked about this actually before when we were doing the thing downstairs, cinema this year has been a bit meh.
Yeah.
It's kind of been the dreaded 3-star meh.
Yeah.
My enjoyment things, the things I'm getting excited about now are Netflix. And I hate being that guy because I love the cinema and I love going to watch things in the cinema. But my excitement, the things I'm looking forward to now is Scream on a Wednesday, Game of Thrones when it was out, Stranger Things. I haven't had that in a long time where I've had the kind of, Amber, we'll watch another episode. It's 2:00 in the morning. We'll wait, and you just as soon as you watch it and you finish it, you're kind of waiting for like Idris Elba to kind of pop up and gonna go, or you've got to go as you're watching an episode. You got Idris Elba going, "Go on, another one, go on." That's my really bad Idris Elba impersonation. But yeah, it's just stupendous. Any else guys feeling that way?
Just on the this year has been particularly like
Yeah,
I think, and I think what was I was binging on the thing for me about Netflix has been the kind of the Marvel end of things, the Daredevil, which I will go to time with anybody on this. I think that's the best thing Marvel related out there, because
Jessica Jones.
We finally have a bad guy who you think could win, and Jessica Jones is great too, and I'm already waiting for September. Can we just push through August? Do we get to September and we get the Luke Cage?
You know what? I'm not
ready.
I'm not excited about it.
No.
I just want more Jessica Jones. Unfortunately, spoiler, what they've done with David Tennant means he can't come back, because David Tennant's villain in Jessica Jones is quite possibly one of the greatest villains I've ever seen.
Yeah,
ever,
great. He's
ever.
great,
Any
man.
you guys seen Jessica Jones?
I've seen bits of it before, and I kind of haven't had gist about it, but
Have you, Jonathan?
I started watching it and then never got back into it.
Oh.
Not because I didn't think it was
Yeah.
think it was good, just I fell out of watching it.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
I haven't seen Daredevil season 2 yet.
It is a commitment. But there's a scene, because the whole point with David Tennant's character, we went off on a tangent. The whole point with David Tennant's character is that he's kind of telekinetic. He can control minds.
Yeah.
And there's just this scene, and of all the scenes this year I've seen, and well, Jessica Jones maybe was last year. Maybe I watched it at the beginning of this year, so I mean that's why. And there's just a scene where he's reading the paper, and this guy comes over and says, "Hey man, this is in the library," and you just hear David Tennant kind of going, "Throw that cup of hot coffee in your face," and like boom. Boom, does it, and you see this guy's face being scalded, and you're like, of all the things I've seen, I'm trying to think in kind of CGI Gribbly and Batman versus Superman. I've seen Suicide Squad, all that kind of stuff. That kind of is more menacing and terrifying than that. But that's the current. That's the noughties, if you want to call it. Let's go back to the 90s. Let's get back in the DeLorean. Go back to the 90s.
90s. I can do that.
We were talking about Scream. We were talking about how stupendously fantastic that it is. It did give us then every other postmodern horror film.
That's what I was going to say. Like, another one of the touchstones for me for 90s horror would be the one that's pretty much just a standard slasher, which is I Know What You Did Last Summer. Which I think is a pretty good film.
the first one.
Yeah, the first one.
Yeah.
The less said about the second one and the third one.
Yeah, the
I
third
think
one.
there might be a fourth one.
Yeah, I think
No,
so.
I give up. I think
It's
there
like,
might.
I Know What You Did Last Summer, I Still Know What You Did Last Summer, and then I think it's I'll Always Know What You Did Last Summer,
Maybe there's
which
a-
is
I
a
really
terrible
know what you did last summer.
Maybe one of them was a prequel. I wonder what you'll be doing next summer. Things like that. I have to admit, I never got into I Know What You Did Last Summer. I just remember Sarah Michelle Gellar was in it. That was it.
Yeah.
And then she was in Scream 2. And that was it. You're like,
Oh,
so
yeah, right.
I had such a Buffy crush.
Oh, no,
You
so
know?
did I. That's probably
Yeah.
why I watched I Know What You Did Last Summer. But no, I think it's really good. I
But-
think it's a pretty decent
Do you know what my
slasher.
problem is? I think it's one of the Scary Movie films. I can't distinguish I Know What You Did Last Summer from, I think it's Scary Movie 1, where it's like the kind of the scene where they run over the guy and it's like, he's like, yeah, I'm all right.
Yeah.
I'm all right. And then they kind of throw the bottle and hit him. I can't
Yeah.
distinguish that. It's kind of that same thing with Scary Movie and Scream. Because Scream
That's fair
pretty much did almost like at moments like steal line for line Scary Movie.
Yeah.
But another film, like, and this is the thing actually I'm really, if we can talk about, I don't know if you've seen this. When you think of the 90s horror films, kind of a completely different tangent. I think it was the 90s. The Blair Witch Project.
Yeah, it was 90s.
Blair Witch Project. And you kind of go, I remember going to see that film and being genuinely freaked out. And having not seen any kind of found footage stuff before. I know now I'm kind of talking about how sick I am of found footage, but then it was fresh and new. There was that, and then there was, I think it's the Jersey, or the last episode, which is just fantastic. Apart from the ending, which is a bit cake. But that's the problem with found footage stuff. But they're making a sequel to the Blair Witch Project, and it looks amazing.
It does look pretty good.
It looks amazing. They're kind of doing found footage, a mix of found footage and a mix of not. And I think it's Adam Wingard who did The Guest, and you're like, done, sold, I'm there.
Yeah.
I
I'll
am
probably not
there.
see it in the cinema, but yeah.
I'm there. You will, sneak out.
I won't.
Sneak out in your Scream costume, you'll be alright.
Yeah, I don't think I saw the Blair Witch Project in the cinema, but I remember seeing it, probably borrowed it off somebody in school, and I remember it absolutely terrifying me.
What I love about the Blair
It's
Witch,
just horrible.
what I love about the Blair Witch, maybe this is me showing me age, it was the first film that made me want to go to a website. Because if that makes sense, you kind of think, you take that for granted now, but it was the first film because they had a whole kind of viral marketing.
Yeah.
And by the time it reached here, and by the time it reached UK, we kind of knew it was a film. But I remember when it first came out in America, they had it sold as they had these guys' faces on milk cartons where the film was showing. So people genuinely thought this was real. There was people going out to the woods to try and find these guys. And you kind of go, that's genius. So then what they did with the website, they created a website which wasn't about the movie, but it was about the Blair Witch mythology and kind of like, it filled in gaps what they talk about in the film. But to anybody kind of going like a complete numpty, going to watch that would go, oh my God, that's real. What do you think happened to them? It's like, I don't know. They probably died horribly. But it's just kind of that idea of that was the first film I was aware of kind of viral marketing. Jurassic Park we've talked about before being the first kind of film that was like an event movie, being like, I want to go to McDonald's, I want to go get the cups, I want to go get the Happy Meal, I want to go see the film, I want to get everything all in one go. But that's 90s. Jurassic Park, Scream, Blair Witch. Anything else, guys?
Matrix.
Yeah, Matrix. Yeah,
Matrix has to be in there as a
did anyone
90s essential.
did anyone have enough faith for the Matrix to go and see it in the cinema? First time round, not like kind of post.
No, I didn't. I saw it on video.
Yeah,
I got
same.
it after.
I got it for Christmas from someone because I remember it had that kind of really kind of sexy kind of like VHS cover,
box,
and it kind of opened up.
Holographic or something, yeah.
No, it wasn't. It was kind of like it was
just
all
a cardboard.
It was all cardboard, and I remember it was like a real bugger to get it open. You know, kind of go squeeze it open, and I think the VHS was a bit of a weird color.
It was green, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it might have been.
It could well be.
Matrix green.
Yeah, and when I look back now, I kind of go, why did I not go see that film in the cinema?
Yeah.
And then you go see the sequels, and you're like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, because everybody who didn't see the first one in the cinema went to see the second one. They were like, oh, what?
What have you?
I never saw the third one in the cinema.
The second one in the cinema has the cliffhanger. There's a bit of a cliffhanger at the end, right? And I remember at the end of the second one, I went, no, I need to know
Okay.
how this is. Like, I was gutted that it cut off at that point, and then the third one started, and I went, I forget to say.
I think I had a lovely sleep in Revolutions, isn't it, the last one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of got 20 minutes into it, and I think this is cake. I'm going to sleep now.
Do you know what I remember the most about that third one? Is the MTV Video Awards, the parody thing they did with Will Ferrell.
Will Ferrell.
And it was all, ergo, vis-a-vis,
Concordedly.
Toulou, like all this stuff, and it just made no sense, and it made more sense in the end.
No idea what I'm
Back
talking
when
about.
Will Ferrell was funny. Back when Will Ferrell
That's the 90s.
I'm gonna go proper 90s here. If any of you have seen this, proper 90s, full out there. I don't know specifically the year. Will Ferrell. I love this film. It used to be my going out film whenever we were at university. Night at the Roxbury.
Never seen it.
Never seen it? And
Heard of it, never seen it.
Oh, not the Roxbury. Just
Jim
what?
Carrey's in it as well.
He's in a scene in Saturday Night Live.
That's what I'm thinking
That's where he's from.
That's what I'm thinking of.
It is quite possibly one of my all-time favourite stupid movies. It's kind of like in that mode of like kind of Zoolander, that kind of idea. And you kind of go... It's if you kind of describe it, it's kind of the stupidest film ever. They're two brothers, they're two dimwits. They want to create a nightclub, but the whole theme for the nightclub is the outside is the inside and inside is the outside. And it's just... it's like you could say. I'm not even going to start doing a quote long, but I will say this: it did give me my love for Hathaway. What is love? And every time I think I don't know what ad it is. It's for one of the new cars. The kind of wee girls doing the dance in the front. You're like, kind of, yeah, that's me. But I was doing that back in the 90s when it was cool. Look it out, peeps.
It's on Netflix. I think I saw it on Netflix.
It could well be.
Possibly.
Night at the Roxbury. Yeah. Most people, 99.9% of the world will hate it. I absolutely adore this film. It was a time back when Will Ferrell was funny, when he did stuff like there was that. Then there was Superstar, which isn't that funny. And then there's, I can't remember the other film. I think it's, The Ladies' Man.
I've never heard of any of this.
Watch The Ladies' Man. It's just brilliant. Because Will Ferrell plays the husband of a wife that's having an affair. But all he wants to do with everybody is wrestle Greek style, and it's like at the very end, it's like, you're clearly gay. It's like, no, I just like to wrestle. It is a time when Will Ferrell was funny.
Fair enough.
But then kind of like the naughties came and he stopped caring. I don't know what the clincher point. I don't know. There's what do you call the one Blazing
Glory.
Blades of Glory. That's kind of the last kind of really great. And then there's, I don't know if that came out before or after, there's Talladega Nights.
I like Talladega
Nights is the film. Now you lost me, Will.
Oh, there's a lovely sequence in Talladega Nights where they're all sitting having dinner and they pray.
Yeah.
And he prays to the baby Jesus because that's his favourite version of Jesus. And that's still my favourite. Like, from a films and faith point of view, I'm like, let's talk about prayer. Let's just play that scene out. And
let's talk about the baby Jesus.
I love it. I absolutely love it. He's like, why do you call him baby Jesus? He's like, well, that's my favourite version of baby Jesus. Like, and it's just brilliant. Here's 7-8 pound ounce baby Jesus.
I'm going to go there because, Therese, you mentioned Jim Carrey. I'm going to go to the 90s. Ace Ventura. Ace Ventura, Pet Detective. I loved Ace Ventura when I was young. When I watch it now, and especially Ace Ventura When Nature Calls, I hate that, man. It's a bit like the kind of Adam Sandler syndrome. When I was younger, I used to love not the Waterboy, Billy Madison.
Yeah,
I used to love Billy Madison.
Happy Gilmore
like,
as well.
Shampoo is better, condition, all that kind of stuff. I can't even do the quotes, but Veronica Corningstone, so hot, want to touch the hiney, all that kind of stuff. When I watched that, then Billy Madison was Shakespeare to me. Yeah. The Waterboy, Happy Madison. No, I've got Billy Madison. No.
Yeah.
Happy Gilmore. You've got Billy Madison, Happy Gilmore, all that stuff. The Waterboy. The Waterboy holds up. But see the other films, I just find them so annoying. And I think it's maybe now I'm looking back with the fact that I hate Adam Sandler in every possible way. He's what's lazy and wrong and horrible about cinema. But, I used to love those films. And a bit like Ace Ventura, Jim Carrey, I used to love them.
I loved the first one. I didn't really like the second one at all.
But the second one has the great cliffhanger gag.
Was the second one about the wheel?
Which is so good.
No, the first one's about the wheel.
The first one's about the wheel. I don't remember the second one then.
I love that.
The only bit I will admit to loving in the first Ace Ventura still is the very start where he's got the parcel. And it's just like kicking the parcel up, and you're kind of going, yeah, I've had many delivery like that. Just kind of kicking it over the place, and like he's like in the lift, and keeps closing on the lift, keeps closing. And he's like his kind of gurney face, like, oh, sorry, boom, and then just the dog, and then maybe I'm going to start reloving it again. Maybe kind of the weird bit where he goes to the mental asylum. Let's see that again in super slow mo. He just gurns, and to hear Jim Carrey 90s, I'm going to go there. Liar, Liar, because it's always on ITV2.
Yeah,
it is.
It's always on ITV.
Show.
I just remember there's a girl in it. I know she pops up in an episode of Frasier. She's the voice in one of the voices in Family Guy. Sorry, Therese, but she's big boobs. That's the only thing I remember.
Oh, fair days.
That's the only thing I remember about Liar, Liar. And there's, no.
I don't remember that much.
Would
Dumb and Dumber, does it count? It counts as a 90s movie, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's got to be.
Yeah, I love Dumb and Dumber. kick his ass, sea bass. I love all that.
Do you want to hear the most annoying sound in the world?
That's the pullover jumper joke, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
It's such a good gag. It is just littered. It's like we've got no food, we've got no money, our pets' heads keep falling off. Just two morons. And I am still waiting for a mate to get married and me and somebody else turn up in them.
I've talked about it.
We could do this at your wedding.
I've talked about it for my wedding, but apparently I've been told if that happens, Amber's gone.
Where can I get an orange top hat?
Spoil sport. But I will say this, one of my quotes I love from Dumb and Dumber is, just when I thought you couldn't get any stupider, you go and totally redeem yourself. But yeah, Dumb and Dumber, I have refused to watch the sequel.
Oh yeah, no, I haven't.
And then the more recent sequel. The prequel I've refused to watch, and then the sequel I've refused to watch. There's loads of Jim Carrey films from the 90s, back when he was...
Mask as well.
The Mask hasn't aged well.
No, really hasn't.
It really hasn't. I haven't watched it in a long time. The only bit from The Mask I do remember and still... Well, there's two things. When... Oh, what's her name? Cameron Diaz just walks in and you just go, boom. That's a Hollywood moment. You're like, hello. and the kind of bit again with Cameron Diaz where he's having the dream about picking her up at the nightclub and stuff, and then she kind of turns his head and starts licking him, and then he wakes up, it's the dog. It's the dog. But The Mask hasn't aged well.
Mm.
And there was
you don't see it very much. It doesn't get repeated as much.
Maybe the Son of the Mask just killed it.
Son of Mask.
Son of the Mask. Maybe it just killed it. Who's that? Is it Seth Green? Is in that?
Never seen it.
Never watched it. Never watched it.
Carrey
I watched it. Jim Carrey wasn't there. You've got, I think Seth Green plays his son. It's Seth Green or that guy that's a bit like Seth Green. I don't forget his name. And it's not funny. It's absolutely horrible. Actually horrible in every possible way.
Fair enough.
Here's another film for you in the 90s.
Yeah.
We're going to go there. We'll probably wrap up soon, because we're talking for
I think I could do this all
night.
Right?
Just go, here's another one.
I haven't even got the White Men Can't Jump yet.
Here's one.
Or Passenger 57.
Or I'll give you, if we're going there, we'll go there. It'll give me time to think, but I'm going to go 90s. I'm pretty certain this was 90s. The Phantom Menace?
Oh yeah, it was 99.
99. Just snips in there. Years of excitement. Empire voted it the greatest trailer of all time. And we get that cake.
And it was all over
all about taxes, trade embargoes.
Not good.
You're like, oh, guys. No.
Good. That was the weirdest feeling. I was 14, right? And I was a fan of Star Wars. And it was, everybody came out of the cinema. And the way if you come out of something, it was packed, and if everybody comes out of something, there's sort of a buzz.
Yeah.
Everybody just sort of came out and was like, yeah.
Did you come out of it?
I was just, yeah.
Did you come out of it kind of?
Nobody knew what to say.
Did you come out of it going, I kind of like that, and some really old grumpy guy going, no, you didn't. You're wrong. It's crap.
No, it's just
just a slightly older Bill Taylor.
Even as
although Bill Taylor does defend the prequels.
Oh, that's right, he does.
He does. Bill Taylor defends the prequels to the hilt. You're like, shut up, Bill. You're wrong. Bill bullshit Taylor. You're talking bullshit.
I don't know if I've told this story, but I came out of Independence Day. Maybe I have told this story on the podcast. But we were coming out of Independence Day, and two fellas behind me were coming out. Me and my mate were buzzing. We'd seen Independence Day, and these two fellas behind me wasn't very realistic, was it? At no point was I under the illusion I was watching a documentary. I don't know what they thought they were seeing.
No, but here's the thing, right? Because the key thing about the 90s, right? Now it seems to be there's that nostalgia factor of a certain age group where now the 90s is the kind of go-to. Studios are trying to tap into that. You've got Independence Day 2. We've got, as we mentioned, the Cruel Intentions TV series. Loads of TV shows from the 90s, or films from the 90s, are now becoming TV shows. Anything you can possibly think of, I guarantee you they're pretty much working on it as a TV series. And it's kind of weird because there was that kind of phase where the 80s was kind of like the go-to for nostalgia, and now it's the 90s. It's just kind of a sign you're getting old. It's when the noughties become the kind of nostalgia you go, I'm really old.
Yeah. It's like because everybody's going, 2016 is a really bad year for celebrities, but the reason is it's because we are all of a similar age, and these are all people that
grew up with films.
Grew up with films, TV, the music, whatever. So it's kind of like our generation turn for these people to go type of thing. It's like whenever I was a kid and like somebody died, my mum and dad were like, "Oh, he's died. He was on TV. He was on that Generation Game and all." And it's like, who?
Yeah.
Like, my kids are doing that now.
Yeah. Mm.
You know, so it's a generational thing.
But
and
you
now
know
we're
what?
doing. We're
See if your kids when they're older and they really mourn the day Justin Bieber dies. You know, they're no friends of mine.
Wow.
Harsh words.
Famous. I'll stand by those words. I will stand by those words due to the power of the interweb and time travel. When Justin Bieber dies, you know, I'm not going to mourn
The
him.
world will be a better place.
I'm not going to mourn him. Because I mean that's the thing, and I mean we're getting off completely from movie tangents.
Who
but
don't we like?
It's not even. You know what? It's not even that. It's just a case of there's people that are passing away now that are famous for talent. And now you kind of look at the current generation. It's like, I'm sorry, I watched for once an episode of Celebrity Big Brother.
Right.
I knew very little. And it's like, oh, that person's off that celebrity show. It's like, what celebrity show? Oh, Towie. It's like, so how's that a celebrity show? I don't want to sound like my mom or dad. Go, what are they famous for? It's like, oh, they're famous for being famous. Yeah. It's like, but what do as they kind of do is like, it's the kind of thing is, what do they do? Fuck all is what they do. But it's a sad.
But then it just goes to show how easy it is for us to become celebrities.
Yeah, but why hasn't it happened yet? Why hasn't it happened? That's why. If it's so easy, why hasn't it happened, Therese? Who wants?
Probably not mad enough.
Who wants to make like I don't know, like a program about West Belfast, East Belfast? I don't know. What would it be called? I don't know. I can't think of anything.
That's probably why we're not.
That's probably good.
I can't think of anything funny off the top of my head. But do you know what though? Generally, the worrying thing for me is of all the people I knew. Okay, I knew Sam Fox, right? Because my dad for years because Sam Fox, she's a good-looking girl. But the only person I knew is a guy called James Whale, a radio presenter.
Oh yeah, I know him.
I knew him. He's like, there's James Whale. I know that person because I remember watching it in the 90s, bringing it back. His kind of really crap late night TV show on ITV, vaguely, when my dad would sit up and we would watch it, because we stayed up to watch the James Whale show, to watch the greatest ever 90s TV sitcom that sadly has disappeared off the earth, Sledgehammer. Look it out, peeps. I'm telling you, Sledgehammer. It's about a cop that talks to his gun, and basically he shoots first and asks questions later, and he talks to his gun. And his catchphrase is, "Trust me, I know what I'm doing."
To the gun. Trust me, I know what I'm doing.
I'm telling you, watch it. Watch it on YouTube tonight. Sledgehammer, trust me, I know what I'm doing. It's just got one of those great theme tunes from the 90s. It kind of looks, when you watch it now, you kind of think, this is going to be like, is this going to be like Murder, She Wrote or Quincy? But no, it's a man talking to his gun who loves guns, he loves violence, and it's got every kind of cliche. You've got the black police chief who kind of is always shouting at him, and it's like, oh, it's just watch it. Go back to the 90s. It's just genius. It's up there with like Cheers. It's up there with Frasier. Cheers, Frasier, 90s. You not like Frasier?
If it was up there with Cheers and Frasier, surely somebody else around this table apart from you would have heard of it though.
Because well, I mean, you know, it's up there with Seinfeld.
Okay,
it's up there.
I'd say so.
I'll tell you now. Here's one.
You're rhyming off names I recognize.
Here's one. Here's one. Right, I'm going to tell you. I bet you haven't seen, or maybe you've heard of, the greatest. Actually, I'll put this up as the greatest ever thing from the 90s ever, TV wise. The Larry Sanders Show. You ever seen it? Watch the Larry Sanders.
It was on very, very late.
BBC Two used to be perfect for me. Seinfeld, Larry Sanders Show.
I could never stay awake.
Oh, I used to love it because someone for Christmas bought me a really cheap, kind of small, teeny weeny TV. And I remember I used to sit up and watched it. Back in the days when the TV used to sign off at night. When I was like, you'd stay up just to kind of hear the guy kind of going, and it's going to be a good evening. It's a good night from us, and it's a good night from here. And then, they had the national anthem, and then it kind of switched off, and that was it. No, you've got BBC News 24. And the old kind of days of ITV when you had the cat going across the screen.
So here, the faculty's great.
Do you not remember this? None of you remember this? The old days when ITV, it kind of went, when at a certain point, they still showed programs. But at a certain point in the night, it went to CFAX, right? But it went to CFAX. But before that, they used to show programs up until maybe 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. And at a certain point, they didn't even bother putting adverts on. It was just a cat. It was just this cat across the screen. It would say, "Back soon." No.
No,
Yeah.
I remember the sea facts. Don't remember that.
And then there was another great one. I'll give you the last one. I'm going to give you.
He
from
just
the,
had a cat.
right.
Just
And the
of his TV.
last program I'm going to give you from the 90s, peeps, and it's proper up there. Look it out. Is because you've got Bob Mills, and I love Bob Mills. Bob Mills is just a genius for me. It's a TV series called In Bed With Me Dinner.
Yeah.
Oh, I absolutely adored it. It's kind of like a very early kind of the idea for like Harry Hill, where he basically watches TV programs in front of a live audience, and he basically gives his commentary while he's watching. It's just genius.
Yeah,
It's
I've
genuine.
heard of that.
It's genius. It was not a late night ITV. There was that, and then there was Sledgehammer, but you obviously went to bed before
Yeah,
Sledgehammer.
of course.
You know, so that's your homework for this week. Watch Sledgehammer. So bring it back to 90s, peeps. We're technically in 90s, but we're going to go back to cinema. You know, what other things you want to talk
Well,
about?
it's just you were mentioning before, Neil, about like all the Jerry Bruckheimer movies in the 90s.
Yeah.
Like they were the action movies of the 90s, like Con Air and Face Off and what else did you say? The Rock.
The Rock, yeah.
Like when Michael Bay was good.
Yeah,
you know,
and we've got the Rock.
Bad Boys.
The
first Bad Boys.
We have the Rock.
love
We
that
have the
film.
Rock to thank for the war in Iraq. You know, so there you go. Part of the 90s.
Thanks, Dwayne.
Yeah. That's what it is. That's what apparently there was information that was leaked to the British government was based from people watching The Rock. It was true. It came out in the kind of what was it? The report.
We are talking about the film and not the wrestler.
Not the wrestler.
Right.
Not the
We
wrestler.
are
The
talking
wrestler.
about Sean Connery.
Yeah, Sean Connery.
That's terrible.
Hey, hon.
Sean Connery just had a stroke. Sorry.
Hey, hon. Do you want to know who really killed JFK? Stuff like that. You know,
It's a great
good old.
movie. It was on TV like last week. I think I
Always
watched
on,
like
it's always on
about
TV.
an hour and a half of it, and it's like I should really go to bed.
Yes.
Before this cat comes on the TV.
Nuclear weapon. Yes.
For the cat gets up and turns the TV off.
All right, kids. All right, crazy kids. What can I say? I'm slightly old. What can I say? Yeah, Jerry Bruckheimer. I'll go there as well. We're clearly going to carry on. I'm going to go there. Under Siege. Under Siege. Back when Steven Seagal walked around the place without waddling. Back before he got fat. You know, Under Siege. Just a perfect film. But the thing about, do you know what I love about the 90s action films, right? What I love particularly about them is they had the villain who, because it always finished in a big fight between the villain and the good guy. Mm-hmm. But you always knew, like, on a face-to-face level, it was like Steven Seagal, and I'm just going to use Under Siege as an example, Steven Seagal versus Tommy Lee Jones. Who's going to win that fight? There's no tension there. Yeah, it's going to be Steven Seagal, no matter what you do.
That's fair.
Tommy Lee Jones, he can do whatever he wants, but, you know, it's going to be Steven Seagal. Back in the days of mismatched superheroes, or of mismatched antagonists and protagonists. That's what I like. There's just no way. When you think of there's no way, Steven Seagal's not going to win that fight.
And the villains always had a really unfortunate, this knack for just kind of facing off against the hero, but with their back to like a 50-foot drop.
Yeah.
It's really unfortunate. Loads of them.
I'm going to go on, but the name of it has went out of my head, so I'm going to, you guys will help me. The name has just went out of my head completely. We've got Arnold Schwarzenegger, James Cameron. We've got Jamie Lee Curtis. True Lies.
Yeah.
True Lies. You're kind of going, there is a film from the 90s. I think that holds up. Why was there never a sequel?
So 90s, now that I think about it.
Why was there not a sequel? Elijah Dooku as a hot teen, you're kind of going, I'm slightly older than you, Elijah, but it's okay. We're kind of hot. You're hot in a kind of sexy way. You've got... Who's the villain? You've got the girl villain in that? It's been ages since I've seen it.
It's Wayne's girlfriend. It's what she calls Shira Present should be called Abraham Lincoln, but I can't remember her name.
I know exactly who you mean now. Yes, the very hot girl.
What's she called? That's going to annoy me.
And how have we got...
My instinct is to go, it was the 90s, was it?
Why have we got...
Reid?
why have we went through a podcast and not mentioned Wayne's World or Wayne's World 2?
That's true.
Exactly.
Wayne's World is just like one of the greatest ever moments in Wayne's World is like, I do not have a gun to necessitate the need for a gun rack. Oh, Stacey. Isn't it Stacey? No, it's not.
Yeah,
I think it's Stacey in Wayne's World.
Remember.
It's just, I'm just the kind of game on, car,
Yep.
game on. Oh, I watched Wayne's World a couple of weeks ago for the
I
first
had
time in
a
donkeys.
massive crush on Tia Carrera.
There we go, boom.
Tia Carrera.
Yeah.
There we go. Did I just do that?
Yeah.
I just connected the dots.
You connected the dots in only the way that BanterFlix
Sure,
does.
nice. Yes,
There we
she's
go. Yes.
she's not the main bad guy, but she's the.
She's one of the bad guys.
Yeah.
And we have, Bill Paxton. Isn't it
Yeah,
Bill
yeah.
Paxton? I always get them wrong.
No. In True Lies.
Yeah.
So
There's
it's
Bill
fine,
Paxton and there's Bill Pullman, and I'm pretty certain it's Bill Paxton.
Yeah, I think it is.
Bill Paxton kind of shows up.
But you know the thing about like those 90s movies, and this sounds it sounds quite bad when you say it now. Now you can't have an action movie that's like that that's fun, right? In the 90s you still could, because this sounds bad, but I've heard people say it before. It's like I think it was actually James Cameron saying that terrorism was still kind of fun in the 90s in a way that it can't be now. Yeah. You know, it was like a film like True Lies or The Rock, you can get a lot of fun out of it, whereas if you watch something like that now, you're like, it's not quite as much fun.
That's why we need more Team America.
That's true.
That's why we need more Team America.
But they were unabashed, just action movies that made no sort of compromise.
Yeah.
And you don't get that now.
That was back in the day.
Or at times sense.
Yeah, back in the day when America was saving the world single-handedly. Yeah. God bless America.
Yeah. But I don't mind, because films like The Rock are just brilliant.
Yeah. Because Con Air doesn't, like, if you
put the bunny in the box.
Yeah, if you put Con Air on now in front of like
Belfast
15-year-old,
Belfast Film Festival are doing this.
Seriously, guys, like, really, a plane full of convicts, and everybody thought this was a grand idea.
Isn't it John Malkovich?
John Malkovich, yeah. There's just like those super high concept, stupid ideas that don't make sense.
It's just probably the closest you would get to something like Con Air now is probably Snakes in a Plane. That's it.
That's a good point, actually.
That's kind of like, that's kind of where they kind of become, or kind of like the kind of sci-fi schlockfest of Sharknado, or whatever you call it.
Oh.
Sharknado.
And I think they're on their
Sharknado.
No, but I mean that kind of like back of the kind of little bit back of the cigarette box. You know, there's a plot.
Yeah, okay,
there we go. Boom. What do we need? It's like the old days when they sold Top Gun. Basically said, right, Ray-Bans, Tom Cruise, air pilot, jet pilot, and they're boom, sold. Yeah, it's like all you need is like the thing from the Simpsons. Howard, you've done it again.
There is a
Ron, you've done it again.
There is a bit of Con Air where you go, how did you come up with the plot? And you go, well, we just had a load of post-it notes and some darts, and we just went, plane, boom. You know, there is a bit.
I haven't watched Con Air in a long, long time.
Do you know what? I really want to go home. I
think we should.
Let's go.
I think we should wrap this podcast up, and I think, are we going to say Con Air might be the most 90s? Are we going to go there and say it's the most 90s film we can think of? Back in the days when terrorism was fun.
I reckon it's the most 90s action film.
Terrorism was fun. Tara Reid was still kind of hot. She wasn't mental. Arnold was still a Hollywood A-lister.
Arnold had a whole
Terminator
2. Sorry,
T2 92. Yeah, isn't that 92? Come on, yeah.
It was definitely 90s.
I think T2 is the most 90s movie.
Yeah, probably.
I'm going now.
Hasta la vista.
You know what? You know what? I'm going to go there as the most 90s film. I'm gonna go there. I'm surprised we haven't went there. Clueless.
Oh, I love Clueless.
Pretty good.
I'm still here, everybody, by the way.
Yeah. We just kind of
something I know.
Yeah. But you must have seen some films we're talking about. You must have seen Con Air.
Yeah, I have seen them. But it was Con Air actually is studied for A-level.
No way.
No, you studied Con Air.
Hang on a minute. How did you get? Whoa! How did you get?
It was made by Post-its.
Hang on. How did you get through us talking about Con Air and not mention I studied that for A-level?
Because it kind of drove me insane. It was the same. I studied Blade Runner as well for one of my A-levels, and it just.
Oh, why did you have fun at school? I'd love to have done that.
Blade Runners up here like Con Air.
Yeah,
those are two.
I
think it was because I studied them, and it was like.
But how did you study them? Was it like film studies or media studies?
It was moving image arts. So,
right.
From my from my A level, my test was on Blade Runner, so we had to basically watch it both versions.
Right.
And then on a computer, very high tech, answer questions about it all. It showed you clips. And
I would have loved to have done that. I had to do French for A-level.
Yeah.
But coming back, key thing, you're going to Blade Runner. We want to know what was it you had to do about Con Air for the 90s.
It was just it was like it wasn't really like a case study. You kind of had to pick like an era that. So last year, my year they done it. They picked the 90s.
Right.
And Con Air and amongst different ones we just wanted to talk about.
Can you remember any of the questions or any of the kind of? Can you remember any of the questions, and we'll try to answer them now very quickly.
It was more like technical things. It was more about like what cinematography can you take from this clip, blah blah blah.
Focus on the bunny.
Yeah.
Always
Con Air.
focus on the bunny.
That shot of him coming out of the plane into the sunlight and going, like that.
So it's like things
Super-
like that, that like
Super slow-mo.
it's kind of every bit of knowledge I have about it's just kind of disappeared from me because it consumed my life for
You
like
block
2
it out like
years.
PTSD.
Yeah. The same with Blade Runner. I will never watch it ever again.
Ah,
Never.
don't say that. But there's a new version of it since you studied it. There's a new version of it. You should go back and
There's
watch
actually
Blade Runner.
been probably about another 47
That's
versions.
right. Ridley, I'll give him a few more years.
I remember the first time we had to watch it. Well, first, this is how. Yes, I do love films, but sometimes they tend to be quite stupid. And we were told we were studying Blade Runner, and I thought it was a version of the Blade movies,
Okay.
the vampire movies.
Yeah,
Got
yeah.
really excited, and then that came on, and the first, obviously, it was I think it was the director's cut we watched the first time round, and it lasted about half an hour in, and that was me gone. And I've never fell asleep ever watching a film, and I was just out. And then
I thought we were
woke
going to
up
be friends,
again.
Therese.
Yeah, well, watched it the second time around, and I did really enjoy it. But
I think you need to go back and watch it now. We're going to go back
Probably
and watch.
not.
We're going to go back and watch Con Air,
Yeah.
and we'll do notes for you. And I think you have to go back and watch Blade Runner.
I wish I had like any of my notes from like a level or something like that.
I think you need to bring them in. That's a bit like me. I need to find the tape of me being the 5th Ghostbuster. You need to bring your notes from A level.
Notes
I was
from my
listening to
level.
that the other day.
Yeah.
I was
But
laughing
but
so much.
Clueless.
Yeah.
I think that's up there as possibly the most 90s film. You've got Paul Rudd,
Yeah.
Alicia Silverstone.
Ages, Paul Rudd.
Yes, ages Paul Rudd.
Mm.
You've got that guy who's the same. He plays pretty much the same. That he's in Night at the Roxbury, and he plays pretty much the exact same character. He's the dad in Clueless. I'm pretty certain of that. He's also the dad in How I Met Your Mother.
Sorry. I just remember.
No, he's not the dad in How I Met Your Mother. He's the dad in Night at the Roxbury.
Okay. I just remembered. It's kind of like Clueless. 10 Things I Hate About You.
Which is showing tonight in the Strand
Yeah.
as we record.
Really?
Yeah.
It's on underneath
Oh,
us.
wow.
Yeah, see?
Let's go.
We missed it by like an hour and a half, but you know, it's good.
Oh.
We can give it down.
That's another great
Back when
90s
Heath
film,
Ledger.
sorry.
God bless him.
I love that film so much.
But like, I mean, when you think about, like, we were talking about this yesterday when we talked about Suicide Squad, who would have thought that man from 10 Things I Hated About You would go on to be, I think, still, no matter what people say about Jared Leto, is the definitive Joker.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unanimous.
Have that.
So, that's it. We'll wrap up, right? So I'm going to ask you each to name a film, your definitive 90s film. I know we kind of touched on it there. So we'll start with you, Jonathan. 90s in a nutshell.
90s in a nutshell.
I was going to say
Turtle
19.
Power.
That's exactly what I was going to go there.
That's very good. No, to be honest, we haven't mentioned it, but the 90s for me was Jurassic Park.
Jurassic
Really.
Park.
I can't put any other film above Jurassic Park for me for the 90s.
Okay.
Really can't. I love that film so much, but I've talked enough about Jurassic Park
That's
on
okay.
other podcasts.
That's okay. Therese.
For me, it's going to be Toy Story.
Okay.
Oh, that's a 90s film. Of course it is.
Later 90s. It was the first.
Yeah.
It was the first film I ever owned on VHS.
Okay.
And watched it until
It must have been
Tape
surely
from
the one
Fanny.
and only film you copied, because you must have been around that time when DVDs were coming out.
just like videos were just phased
Did
out.
you go into the shop, buy your VHS, and then as soon as you were leaving the shop, they were just getting out the DVDs?
I didn't really jump on the DVD bandwagon. I still like the whole idea of having to rewind things and you could pause them and come back to it. And then there was obviously the stigma if somebody hadn't rewinded their video and you had to stand and wait for it all. But Toy Story for me, definitely. And the first time I watched it, loved it. I will continuously watch it and watch it and watch it. And will love it even more. But it's the fact, for me, I really enjoy Pixar movies.
Yeah.
And seeing the level then of what Pixar was at with their computer graphics wise to what they are now is just
Yeah, because funny you said that. Like, I mean, I've seen Finding Dory twice now. I don't love it as much as I do Nemo, but when you talk about how far they've come, not actually Finding Dory itself, I think it's purposely. It kind of looks like Nemo. I think as a purposely, just so the two match. But as we short before, if any of you have seen Finding Dory yet, Piper, and the animation in that is just I've seen that twice. And it does in like 5 minutes what Finding Dory tries to do in like an hour and a half, but it's just a perfect film. But when you watch the animation in that, you just kind of go, wow. And exactly I actually thought of that when I look back, maybe not Toy Story, maybe Toy Story 2, you kind of go, how far they've come.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. coming to you, Neil. I love the way we're kind of just throwing out complete curveballs we haven't mentioned.
I know, completely. Because do you know what's going in my head now? Because I was going to say The Matrix, because I think, and I didn't watch it in the cinema, but I think it did something effects-wise that we just hadn't had previously. Maybe T2 at a push, but it was a close comparison. But I was also going to drop Pulp Fiction just to leave that. I know, like just before we just sign off and just go, one of the greatest films ever. Just, you know,
why not?
Because I watched that with my mates, and we were a couple of years younger than 18 at that point. So we kind of, you know, somebody's dad rented it, that type of thing, and we watched it. And
Whose dad?
That night,
Name and shame.
I can't remember. And
Was it your dad?
no, my dad, Jeepers. But that night, just sitting with a bunch of mates watching this thing and going, this, and I still can't watch them hit the girl with the needle for the adrenaline. I still have to cover my eyes at that. I know, I am, but I'm gonna slightly lean towards The Matrix, maybe as a thing.
Right, I'm going to throw 2 curveballs in, because since everybody else is saying films I haven't mentioned before, right? For me, 90s in a nutshell. The second one, I'm not so certain it's 90s, but I'm pretty certain it is. But I'm going to go first, American History X, which I'm pretty certain it's 90s. If you can say it about that film, I love that film. That was another one of those films we just kind of watched and watched and watched. Going to go back to days of Clocky at the Caravan. That was the film earlier on, complete tangent in this podcast where I mentioned I couldn't remember the third film. I remember watching that. And it's going back to that Kevin Smith, the kind of the big, massive guy. He's in not How I Met Your Mother. Yeah, I'm obsessed with that TV show. He's also in My Name Is Earl. Yeah. He's the brother, Randy.
Yeah.
And but when you see him in that film, he's A, terrifying, and B, like I'm speaking here as a big guy, but I mean, he's humongous. And when you look at him in the weight that man lost, from that to when he did My Name Is Earl, is just stupendous. And the last one I'm going to go, for me, 90s in a nutshell, Fight Club.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah, I was just going to say, when did Fight Club come out?
Fight Club. Okay. I'm pretty certain, because what
can
I love.
We just agree?
Start over. Let's go.
That the 90s was the best decade of cinema ever.
I think that's fair.
Can we just leave that as our final thing?
I think in an hour and 15 minutes we're going to struggle to get every single film.
1 hour and 15 minutes.
But I'll say this: do what I love about Fight Club? Kind of tangent. It's the first film I ever remember with an Easter egg in the DVD, because when you launched it for the first time on your DVD player, I don't know if it was specifically the first time or just every time you put it on. Yeah. I think it was like for a generic kind of rom-com it loaded up for, and then it kind of like X'd it out of it, and then it went to Operation Mayhem, and you're like,
oh, that's cool.
I just remember watching that kind of going, wow, I love DVDs now. Yeah. Get away from me, VHS. bin them.
I can't believe how many films we mentioned.
How much nonsense we talked, and then right at the end we just drop absolute bangers.
It says more about
the best for last.
It says more about BanterFlix when we spent 15 minutes talking about Ace Ventura and Liar Liar, and we spent like a second talking about Fight Club.
If there's anybody still out there, we're sorry.
Go watch Fight Club and The Matrix and Toy Story and Jurassic Park.
And that's the 90s.
Yeah, but if you don't want to watch them, watch Con Air, Ace Ventura, Night at the Roxbury, the Sledgehammer TV series. Look out for the cat on the old days of ITV back soon, and we'll go back to where we started and watch The Faculty.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Peeps, we've ran out of time. We'll be back next week with another show. But for now, thank you very much, Neil Sedgewick.
Cheers.
Thank you very much, Therese.
Thanks very much.
And thank you very much, Jonathan.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
This has been We Need to Talk About Movies. Thanks for listening. For more information, visit BanterFlix.com. See you next time.